Geometry Dash.
What? Bro!
A simple game about a square jumping over spikes is arguably one of the hardest games in all of history. Over the course of its 13 years, players have been able to go from simple levels like this to near impossible levels like this. Top levels today now require milliseconds of precision. Now, despite this game seeming very simple on the surface with just one input, its 13-year-long history is very messy. In this video, not only will I go over all of the influential levels in Geometry Dash, but I will also cover some of the top players that pushed the difficulty of this game, along with some of the controversy within these top levels. While I can't go every top level verified, as that would make this video well over twice as long, I'll still go over the levels I found to be the most important and really change the dynamic of this game. Now, if you feel like I've missed out on any levels or cool facts, please feel free to let me know down in the comments below. Furthermore, some of these early demons that I'm about to discuss have their difficulty heavily debated. If I misplaced anything, please feel free to correct me down in the comments. And with that being said, let's get into the video. This is the history of Geometry Dash's top levels. Now, I can't just start talking about the top levels without going over the beginning of GD history. So, to start things off, Robert Topala, also known under the alias RobTop, released Geometry Dash on August 13th, 2013. At this time, levels were pretty easy, as players would usually chase stars instead of attempting the hardest levels. Stars were a reward that players got at the end of beating levels, with harder levels rewarding more stars. However, it was much faster to beat a bunch of easy 5-star levels than spending an entire day working on one 10-star level. This resulted in a lack of hard levels, as most players preferred easy star grinding levels. In fact, difficult levels would end up receiving a ton of dislikes for being too hard. However, the player M2 Cole would change all of this by releasing the level Demon Park. This level was much harder to play than any other level at the time due to its unique gameplay. It introduced memory sections with the player having to remember the correct orb or path to choose, as well as having fake jumps to trip up the player. Although the level wouldn't blow up in popularity, the concept of a super hard level with gameplay that felt fun was very unique and extremely innovative for the time. Although many players would brush off this level, RobTop found this level extremely interesting, resulting in him creating a new difficulty of level, Demon. This would make Demon Park the first top 1 demon in the history of Geometry Dash. Eventually, the demon category would expand further, with different categories of demons being classified, ranging from easy demons being the easiest to extreme demons being the hardest. Although RobTop didn't know it at the time, this single action would create a domino effect of continuously hard levels increasing in difficulty exponentially, with each hard level trying to one-up the previous one. This would be one of the most important events that greatly contributed to Geometry Dash's success. As you will see later in the video, demon levels would start to blow up in popularity later on, leading to a wave of new players finding interest in the game. The creation of the demon category would also lead to some early pro players like Riot and Cyclic. Although they wouldn't be insanely popular, they would contribute to the growing popularity of these top hardest levels. Some players would even go a step further. These creators aimed for one goal, making the hardest level in all of Geometry Dash. However, there are a few problems with making top 1 levels. First, players needed to beat their own level before publishing it to the servers to prove that it was humanly possible. This prevented anyone from submitting levels like Sakupin Wall. Like, genuinely, who would want to play this? What? The verification process also made creating a top 1 level significantly harder, Since most level creators usually focus on building levels instead of practicing the game, they usually weren't able to beat their own levels. This forced these players to convince other top players to beat their own level, which is pretty difficult. Second, these levels not only had to have hard gameplay, but they also had to have good enough decoration for RobTop to officially rate the level, putting it in the demon category. Rating a level means that RobTop personally assigned the difficulty of the level and made it so you could earn stars from beating it. And last but not least, these levels had to have somewhat fun gameplay. A level that isn't fun to play, like for example, a level that has a 1 in 10 chance of you dying every click, not only wouldn't get rated, but no one would be willing to verify such a level, therefore breaking both rules 2 and 3. Now, meeting all 3 criteria was extremely hard, which is what would make these top 1 levels so impressive for both the verifier and the creator. On December 26, 2013, the new level Bicycle would take its spot as the hardest level in the game. Unknowingly to the community, this level would end the early days of GD with simple top 1s. But first, we need to look at what made this level so special and unique. Unlike the hard demons of today, this level was laughably easy. You could progress from the tutorial to Bicycle in around a month or less of consistent play. The lack of difficulty in top 1s of this era made them stay around for only a few days, and also made beating these top levels not so impressive, which might have been why they weren't widely popular. Around this time, there were not many options to make a level hard other than making the jumps tighter. The only game modes that were available were Cube, Ship, and Ball, heavily limiting the amount of options that could be used to make a level hard. Furthermore, there was a lack of objects in the level editor, leaving not many options to increase a level's difficulty. Bicycle was different from previous top levels, as it was able to find its difficulty through a confusing layout. Bicycle's gameplay is very annoying at first, but the more you play the level, the more fun it gets. This was the problem with a lot of top levels during this era, as the gameplay usually had tricky gimmicks that made early players not want to learn. This unique gameplay made it a symbol of the early days of Geometry Dash. This level would last around 2 weeks, which is pretty impressive compared to other levels at the time, until it was dethroned by a new threatening demon, the Hell Zone. The Hell Zone would be one of the first collab levels in GD history, having the 4 best GD players in the world working on it. Unlike Bicycle, its decoration was very detailed and elaborate. This level included a hellish theme with intricate designs and details. The decoration wasn't the only thing it would succeed in, as its difficulty would influence a wave of future hell themed levels on the demon list for years to come. This level was insanely hard and unlike anything anyone had ever seen before, making it deserving of its name. Its verifier cyclic would help to inspire a new era of top 1s, exponentially increasing in difficulty, vastly different from the simpler demons of early times. With the verification of this level, a new era of top demons would emerge. During this era, the top hardest levels were unruly, just like the Wild West. Many of these levels were either hack verified or contained a secret way that only the creator knew about to beat the level illegitimately. It was impossible to keep up with all of these levels, as by the time someone would attempt to verify one of these levels, 3 more would have taken its place. All levels before and during this era were also very uncertain in difficulty, as not only was there no formal way of tracking difficulty during this time, but there weren't many players who were willing to playtest these levels. Stereo Demonness was the perfect example of this era. Around February 2014, the level was verified and published. Like the name suggests, it was a hyperbuff remix of Stereo Madness, the tutorial level to Geometry Dash. However, Stereo Demonness was way off the charts compared to other levels at the time. It had virtually impossible jumps requiring 60 FPS frame perfects. A 60 FPS frame perfect means that assuming your monitor was able to display 240 frames in a second, also known as having 240 Hz, you had just 4 frames out of those 240 clicks to make the jump. Also, on a 60 frame per second monitor, you only have 1 frame to make the jump, making it a frame perfect. For reference, elite athletes that have the fastest recorded reaction time in all of the world have a reaction time of around 100 milliseconds. There may as well be even tighter frame perfect jumps within the unnerfed version, but I wasn't able to find any frame perfect counters for the level, so I'm only basing this off of the nerfed version, which was verified years later. Nobody at the time would be able to beat this level without hacks. Regardless, it became the new top 1. It would keep this spot for around 2 months until the level Element 111RG was published. This level is one of the most interesting levels from this era. It got its name from the 111th element on the periodic table, Roentgenium. Why? I have no idea. Maybe it was the creator's favorite element, but who knows, it's just a theory. Anyways, this level was just like Stereo Demonness. It featured the same impossible timings preventing anyone from beating the level without cheats. But if it wasn't possible to verify legit, how did it get verified and published? Instead of using hacks, the verifier of the level, Dark X, created a secret way within the level. He did this by putting a secret path of blocks with a spike on top of them, which completely hid them from casual players. This trick works as spikes don't have a fully accurate hitbox, allowing for the player to touch the edge of them without dying. Unfortunately for Dark X, this secret way would be found only within a few hours. The discovery of the secret way could lead to an influx of both new and experienced players rushing to beat the level for themselves, which prompted RobTop to quickly delete the level from all servers just hours after it was published. Afterwards, Dark X would delete his account, perhaps in shame of this incident. This would be one of the shortest lived levels in the entire history of the game. Since Element 111RG was up for such a short period of time, there weren't any full recordings of the level aside from a couple of seconds of various low quality clips taken within the level. Eventually, years later, a group known as the Restoration Union would recreate the level from the clips given, preserving the short-lived history of this level. Element 111RG really helps to reveal how chaotic this era of Geometry Dash was. After the removal of Element 111RG, Stereo Demonness would reclaim the throne for the hardest level for another 5 months before Silent Club took its spot. Silent Club's difficulty was similar to Stereo Demonness, as it was a remix of the RobTop level Club Step. This level would eventually lead to the rise of silent levels, which means just a level with impossibly hard difficulty that usually isn't physically possible by a human. This would also inspire the remix Silent Club Step. The nerfed copy of this level would get verified by Pacwo on July 17, 2022. This level was so hard that despite its nerfed copy being verified years after the creation of the original, it would still manage to stay on the top 15 hardest levels for years to come. Despite the legendary status that Silent Club has, it was ironically published on April 1st, also known as April Fool's Day, suggesting that this level was never meant to be taken seriously. Regardless of the intent, RobTop would rate the level, creating a new top 1 demon for the community. Players would eventually find a secret way to easily beat the level, and unlike Element 111RG, RobTop decided to remove the rating instead of completely deleting it from the servers. Immediately after the removal of Silent Club, Ice Carbon Diablo X, also known as ICDX, would replace it, becoming the new top 1 demon. Furthermore, all top 1s in this era would get caught and disqualified from their demon status, leaving only ICDX. In fact, as I'm making this video, ICDX is only rated as an insane demon. The Hell Zone, however, is the 500th hardest extreme demon out of around 1400 extreme demons that have ever been rated. The difference between cheated levels that somehow managed to get rated and legit levels was perhaps the biggest out of any era in GD history. Because of this, ICDX was a breath of fresh air from the chaos. It was humanly possible and wasn't insanely difficult. Despite all of this, its verification was hacked yet again. Fortunately for the level, it was able to reclaim its top 1 spot as the upcoming pro player Riot would verify the level without hacks, allowing it to be the first legitimate top 1 in almost a year. ICDX would be one of the first levels to introduce Straight Fly into the game, which would become a major part of future top 1s. Straight fly was one of the hardest techniques still used within top levels. It calls for the player to fly precisely through a one block or tighter gap. This skill is extremely hard because the ship game mode requires the player to hold down to make the ship go up and to release to make the ship go down. So not only did you have to time frequent short clicks and releases, but you had to make sure that they were long enough to not fly too high up or too low down. This is a technique that is still used within top levels today for its consistency and difficulty. About a month after the hacked verification of ICDX, Cataclysm would be verified, stealing the throne for the hardest demon. Back to Cataclysm, this level will be one of the first levels to go on the demon list. This version of the demon list was posted by the user Lugia on the Geometry Dash forums. In case you don't know what the forums are, before GD got its massive cult following, the forums were where fans would go to chat about the game. Although the forums are still maintained today, GD fans have mostly moved on to other platforms. The early version of the demon list would be transferred with other users posting their own versions of it. Eventually, the concept of a list for keeping track of top demons would be refurbished by the website Pointer Crate, around 2 years later after Lugia's original post, to rank the difficulty of each of the top demons. Back to Cataclysm, although its verification was allegedly hacked, it managed to stay on the demon list, as it would eventually be verified by Riot, proving that this level was humanly possible. Cataclysm would share the same hell theme of the Hell Zone, which would further influence a wave of similar top 1 themes levels. With more genuine completions, although still a ton of hacked levels, the Hell era of Geometry Dash was born. Furthermore, Cataclysm was a brutal level, truly fitting of its Hell theme. While this level shared some of Ice Carbon Diablo X's straight flies, it would also add some brutally tight wave segments. This level would be the first level in a new trilogy, the Apocalyptic Trilogy, a series of extreme demons that would feature the same similar theme. Although the Hell Zone was the original Hell theme top 1, Cataclysm would popularize this theme, leading to a wave of future Hell themed top 1 levels. This level was so popular that at the time of recording this video, it is still the second most liked extreme demon in the entire game. Cataclysm would reign king for around a month before losing it to Supreme Lab Factory, but its legacy would still stay. About a month after Cataclysm lost its spot as a top 1, the new level Sonic Wave would swiftly take the throne. But to understand the creation of Sonic Wave, we need to go back to Silent Club. During its long 205-day reign, 9 Circles would release. Although this wasn't a true Hell-themed level, it still had a similar color scheme to many other Hell-themed levels. As you can tell, this Hell theme is starting to feel pretty original. Anyways, this level would blow up instantly within the community, with many players beating it as their first hard demon. It was truly a benchmark between regular players and pro players. For the first time in a while, an accessible demon was made that wasn't top 1 or impossibly buggy, but instead a well-made, heavily difficult level. This level would inspire the pink remake called Fairy Dust, and similar to this new silent trend, the Circles trend would start, which consisted of various remakes of the legendary level 9 Circles. These levels would help to influence a later trend of top demons on the demon list being wave heavy, due to the game mode being much more consistent than other game modes. To this day, 9 Circles remains very fittingly the 9th most liked level in all of Geometry Dash. Back to Sonic Wave, this level was another Circles level, with the revolutionary blue themes. This theme went against its hellish norm, but despite its ingenious innovation, it was heavily criticized for not innovating much other than the color from the original level. This level would stay top 1 for a little over 2 weeks before it was found that the level was hack verified, resulting in the removal of the level from the servers. This would lead to the second hardest demon at the time, Fexty, taking the spot of top 1. 5 days after the rise of Fexty, by far the single most influential level in all of Geometry Dash would be published by the legendary Riot, Bloodbath. It used the familiar Hell theme, and it was second in the Apocalyptic Trilogy. Bloodbath was a mega collab hosted by Riot, and it would have a legendary verification to go with it. Riot spent over 3 months and well over 25,000 attempts struggling to beat the level. The time it took him to beat this level was unusual for the time, revealing just how hard this level was. He'd also have to compete with many of the game's best players to verify the level first, significantly intensifying the verification. He would have two brutal fails at 90 and 94%, but would eventually verify and publish Bloodbath on August 12, 2015. Furthermore, Riot used a 144 Hz monitor to beat the level. This advantage would start a trend of top players using better equipment specifically for Geometry Dash. In case you don't know how truly powerful this monitor was compared to the standard 60 Hz monitors, we need to first look at what Hertz actually mean. Hertz is the amount of frames that a monitor can display within a second, with this number also being known as the frame rate, as I mentioned earlier. Within Geometry Dash, since it was a timing-based rhythm game, a monitor with a higher frame rate gives the player more frames that they can click. There was also a bug within the game at the time, where a higher frame rate would alter the physics of the game, giving players that use these monitors a further advantage. Bloodbath would bring attention to this phenomenon, eventually leading to this physics bug being patched. Even after this patch, high refresh rate monitors still gave more precision. This trend still exists widely today. Top players today sometimes get overkill monitors that output more frames than GD's physics engine can calculate. For example, the best player Zoink uses a 720 Hz monitor. Another top player, Doggy, has a 480 Hz monitor. Some players even go out of their way to get 1000 Hz monitors. Although monitors displaying Hz past GD's 240 ticks per second don't seem to give any advantage on paper, they can make the game run visibly smoother, helping these top players concentrate on their game and helping to deliver the most precise input with tools like click between frames. Back to Bloodbath, it would instantly blow up, with, as of recording this video, being the second most liked demon and the 6th most liked level of all time. Bloodbath will become instantly recognizable by people even outside of the Geometry Dash community. It's almost poetic how 2.0 would drop weeks after Bloodbath is published, symbolizing this level as the pinnacle and the end of the 1.9 era. This level would further a hellish theme for top demons and would become one of the first mega collabs in the Geometry Dash community. While there were already collab levels such as Cataclysm and the Hell Zone, Bloodbath had over 12 of the game's best players and creators working on it together, classifying it as a mega collab. This level would become the single most famous demon in all of GD history, as not only was it insanely popular with videos of it gaining millions of views, but it was one of the first demons in a year not to have been shrouded in any mystery with hacking accusations, as Riot streams his verification stream as well as many other of his attempts live. Furthermore, it would remain the top 1 hardest level for longer than any other level at the time. Bloodbath had a whopping 443-day reign as the top demon, which is the 3rd longest reign of any other level to this day. Unfortunately, all good things must come to an end at some point, and Bloodbath would lose its top spot to Sakupin Hell on November 9, 2016. Sakupin Hell was made to challenge the 2 best players at the time, Riot and Cyclic. Despite this challenge, it would get hacked by the Russian player, sorry if I butcher his name, Nubis. Although Riot would eventually beat the level, he would never get the honor of verifying it. Just a few months before the verification of Sakupin Hell, the legendary level Sonic Wave was found to be hacked by Cyclic and later removed from the demon list. Eventually, it would get verified by the pro player Sunix, leading to its rising back to the top spot of the demon list,
resulting in yet another long reign of 172 days. This level would start the rise of yet another trilogy, the RGB Trio. This would consist of Sonic Wave being the blue, and 2 future levels being the red and green. Shortly after Sakupin Hell, Artificial Ascent would take the throne. This level was one of the best mega collabs in the game, with an impressive 19 creators working on the project. It would have some famous creators like Viprin, Manic648, Zobros, Michigun, and the creator of the original demon list, Lugia. This level is ranked to be one of the best levels in the entire game, and it would be nominated for the Best Demon Mega Collab in the Geometry Dash Awards. This level would also start the new Technology Trilogy, which would have the 2 future levels, Digital Descent and Cybernetic Crescent. Yatagarasu would take the spot as the red in the trio. It was similar to Bloodbath as it featured familiar flow-style gameplay by using various swaps between game modes. It was also an even bigger mega collab than Bloodbath, with twice the players, resulting in a whopping 24 players working on the project. Despite these big achievements, it was nothing compared to Bloodbath's popularity. Furthermore, it was also released at the end of an update, the 2.1 update, marking the end of yet another era in Geometry Dash. It had a lengthy 104-day reign before finally being taken over by the last level of the RGB series, Erebus, being the green to end off the legendary trilogy. Erebus wasn't as significant as the other levels in the trio, but was still somewhat popular. Erebus had flashy graphics but struggled with its gameplay. Most of the level had buggy, inconsistent gameplay found frequently throughout the level, making it not fun to play. About a month and a half after the fall of Erebus, a new legendary level would be born, Bloodlust. This level was a remake of Bloodbath with an extra minute extension added to the end. It sort of turned the level into a boss fight, as there was a little face that would fly around where the Bloodbath part would have ended. The face would drag you into the extension. Manic648 hosted this mega collab with the goal of reviving Bloodbath with the best decoration and the hardest difficulty humanly possible within the bounds of the new 2.0 update when this level was first made. The level also contained a swingcopter section, inspired by a similar section in Yatagarasu.
Wait, crotato chip, didn't they not have swing copter during this update? Didn't that come out in 2.2, you silly potato chip?
Good question. While the swingcopter was formally added in the 2.2 update, it had always been in the game previously. Free 2.0 players would achieve this by making the player go into a dual portal, with one icon going into a one block gap filled with blue orbs, and the other icon acting as the swingcopter. This clever trick allowed the player to swap gravity mid-air, allowing for some clever obstacles within the top levels. Back to Bloodbath, this level was brutal. It was more difficult than anything anyone had ever seen before, aside from a handful of hacked levels. This level wasn't only pushing the 2.0 update's boundaries with decoration, but it also pushed the boundaries with difficulty. Manic648 and the rest of his team ensured that this level not only had the decoration needed to go viral, but also had the difficulty needed to stay top 1 for months. There's one problem though. To make a level extremely difficult, you can only use the most skilled players to verify it. Manic648 couldn't get Riot as he was busy with another project, so Quasar was the perfect fit. He was qualified as he helped to build Bloodlust, giving him knowledge of the level. Furthermore, he also happened to be one of the best players of the game at the time. Unfortunately, the level was so hard that Quasar would end up quitting, resulting in Nobbleboy getting the role. At the time, Nobbleboy was not only very new in the community, but his hardest was only Bloodbath. He was doing a crazy jump from a medium difficulty extreme from almost 2 years ago to an exponentially harder top 1. Jumps like these were virtually unheard of around the time. It was only later that jumps would start gaining in popularity. Manic648 was very skeptical at first, but he saw serious potential in Nobbleboy. This optimism didn't stop a majority of the community from doubting that Nobbleboy would ever beat the level. And as expected, Nobbleboy struggled. Remember how it took Riot over 3 months to beat Bloodbath? It took Nobbleboy over 8 months to even get close to beating it. This wasn't only due to his skill. Nobbleboy would also have a major mental block in the level, forcing him to work on other projects. To him, Bloodbath felt more like working at a job than playing a video game. To make things even harder for Nobbleboy, about 8 months into verifying Bloodlust, he would have one of the worst fails in all of Geometry Dash history. On June 10th, 2017, Nobbleboy happened to be streaming his verification attempts live, when suddenly he got a god tier run. The chat was going crazy. People thought this would be the day he would finally verify it. He made it past the 50% mark, past the 70%, and he was on the last 10%. Soon, he would even make the 95%. Everyone was witnessing history. Then, the unthinkable happened.
No!
At 97%, Nobbleboy died. Months of hard work and hundreds of hours spent on this just to die with 3% left. He had around 6 seconds of the level left just to die and to lose all of his progress. It gets way worse. 10 minutes later, the same thing would happen. Nobbleboy suddenly made it past the 90% mark and was on track for beating the level. At the end of the level, there was a 4-spike straight fly and then a single jump at the end. Nobbleboy died halfway through the straight fly, ending the run with 98%. 2 close runs within 10 minutes apart had to have been devastating for him. It would take him another 10 months just to beat the level, resulting in a total time of 1 year and 4 months just to verify the level, with a total of 121,296 attempts, and over 1,000 hours of gameplay on just this level alone. Nobbleboy's work would pay off instantly, as not only would he gain instant recognition within the community for his massive jump in level difficulty, but Bloodlust would stay at the top level for well over a year with a total reign of 381 days. But before the next level would take the throne, a mysterious non-official top 1 known as Battle of the Shades would take its place. This level started out as regular Demon. Top players such as Cramel and Michigan, who were both popular YouTubers at the time, would make videos on the level and brought a mix of positive and negative feedback for the level. But instead of the creator fixing the bugs within the level and updating it according to the feedback, he fully reworked it, bringing the level into multiple phases. He would rework the level each time, with it completely changing each new phase. And furthermore, with each new phase, it would become more and more obvious that the level was clearly hacked. This would make the level no longer a real top 1 within the eyes of the community, resulting in it being left out of the demon list. Unfortunately, the creator would release the final phase with an accidental secret way, resulting in the level getting unrated by RobTop. Since this level never officially held the crown and was shrouded in controversy, the title of hardest level was handed back to Bloodlust until a new level known as Zodiac was released. Yet another mega collab, Zodiac would bring a change in the top demons of Geometry Dash. This new level would not only hold the throne for 339 days, but it would also become the upcoming player Zoink's first list demon, as a jump from Bloodbath. Similar to Novel Boy's jump from Bloodbath to Bloodlust, this insane jump was well noticed within the community. Keep note of Zoink, as he will be relevant very shortly. This level would eventually lose the throne to Crimson Planet. This level focused mainly on its fast wave segments and several portal changes throughout the level, with its dark aesthetic and flashy lights. Despite its hard difficulty, RobTop actually held back on rating the level after it was verified for well over a year. This might have been because the original verifier eventually confessed to hacking the verification, leading to another top player taking the role of verification. The level had an unfortunate reign of a little over 1 day. Well, how did this happen? Zodiac was actually never dethroned, but instead it was discovered that it was hack verified, disqualifying it from the demon list. This moves Crimson Planet up to the top spot until it was later verified legitimate, making this level the shortest top 1 in history up to this point, aside from Element 111RG of course. There's an even shorter level coming up a bit later, so don't yell at me in the comments just yet. Eventually, a new level known as Tartarus would reclaim the throne. It was yet another health-themed level. How creative. What was original though was the Clubstep theme. Although you could say this is taking inspiration from Silent Clubstep, this was very different from many of the other top levels at this time. A health-themed Clubstep level also just sounds so cool. Anyways, Tartarus is very different from other top 1s. Similar to Bloodbath, it would be the first in a health-themed trilogy. These levels would push the boundaries of players at this time. Even further, with levels as hard as Tartarus, it was extremely hard to find someone willing and capable to verify such levels. An open verification, especially with a prize at the end, motivates players to verify levels, leading to a significantly quicker verification. This verification process worked for Tartarus, as it was verified within 2 years by the player Dolphy. Although this may sound like a lot of time, as it's more than the amount of time it took Novel Boy to verify Bloodlust, for levels of such difficulty, this was becoming more of a reasonable time frame. In fact, this level was so hard that it currently holds the record for the longest reign as a top demon, with a whopping 522-day reign. This beast of a level had been in the works for years. It is said that this level had been in progress as a secret project known as Silent Akbar, before Bloodbath and around the Ice Carven Diablo X era. Unfortunately, around this time, the hype for the level quickly died, for its impossible difficulty at the time. Riot would begin working on the project, revamping several sections, and eventually, many of the top GDE level creators would join the project. It would eventually get the final name, Tartarus, and the level would be published about a year after its premiere. Similar to its predecessor Zodiac, Tartarus would face a bump in the road during its reign. A new level known as the Golden would get published. This level wasn't really golden in color, more of a musty green with some extra colors. Kinda gross. Anyway, this level was known for its intense fast wave sections. More and more top levels around this time would start to use wave gameplay, as it was considered more consistent. This is in part due to 9 circles, as I mentioned earlier, popularizing the wave gameplay. To better picture this, take the ship game mode. Not only do you have to manage your ship with many micro adjustments, but you have to predict whether one adjustment will allow you to reach a certain area, and pray that you didn't hold your mouse for a millisecond too long.
This gameplay wasn't fun for many top players, as the ship game mode quickly went from tight straight flies that allowed some mistakes to frame-perfect corridors that would punish you for milliseconds of inaccuracy. This is much different than the simple straight fly of the Ice Carbon Diablo X era. The wave game mode is very different, as instead of having to focus on your trajectory, speed, hold, and release, all you had to do is focus on your wave by holding and releasing it, cutting the amount of stuff you have to remember in half. The wave moved exactly 45 degrees, making it fair. But as long as you repeat the exact same click pattern, you will get the same results. This can be seen with both Zodiac and a bit more prominently in the Golden, and will be seen a lot more in the next few levels. Anyway, the Golden would hold its top place for around 105 days, before it was eventually moved into the number 2 spot, allowing Tartarus to reign king for a bit. Eventually, the top demon would lose its spot to Firework. Firework was a level made by Cherry Team, an experienced Russian Geometry Dash creator team, known for not only making extremely hard levels, but well-decorated ones too. The upcoming player Trick would start making early progress on this level, eventually leading to him verifying the level with a total of around 234,000 attempts, spanning 8 to 9 months. This was almost twice the amount of attempts it took for Normal Boy to verify Bloodlust, but still, Trick managed it in a much shorter time frame. Unfortunately for the level, despite the hours poured into it, 18 seconds after it would get rated, a new top 1 would be rated, causing Firework to instantly fall into the number 2 spot, making it the shortest top 1 in GD history, shorter than Element 111RG and Crimson Planet. However, this level wasn't any random level. This was one that would leave a lasting mark on the history of Geometry Dash. This level was Slaughterhouse. Somehow, player Space UK was able to beat this beast of a level. He was able to complete this feat quicker than anyone had ever seen before at top levels, with it only taking him an outstanding 41,802 attempts. That's a bit less than double the attempts it took Riot to verify Bloodbath. At this point, so much time has passed between Bloodbath and Slaughterhouse that Bloodbath can now be considered an average extreme demon. While Bloodbath now isn't even on the demon list anymore or even the top 500, it usually still is a milestone many players tackle before some of the harder demons, leading up to the formal top 150 list demons. However, the difference in difficulty between Bloodbath and top 1s is outstanding. To help visualize this difference, a rating system has been made to rate the difficulty of many demons. Starting off with Stereo Madness at a base of 1, Bloodbath would have a difficulty of around 5,723. Its remake, Bloodlust, would have a difficulty of 94,273. Slaughterhouse? This level is nothing like anyone had ever seen before, with a difficulty of 4,137,517. This is a 55.7 times increase in level difficulty. This level is astronomically harder than anything anyone had ever seen before. For a player like Space UK to beat it in less than 50,000 attempts would make him the best player in Geometry Dash's history, alongside his long list of other achievements. Space UK would push the game in a way no one had ever seen before. He was without a doubt better than any other player who had picked up the game in its long 13-year history. This would push out other upcoming players like Doggy, Zoink, and Trick, forcing him to catch up to his skill and to adapt quickly. But if he is so influential, where'd he end up going? While Space UK currently still plays the game, he's nowhere close to his former glory. To find out why this happened, we need to look at him in his prime. In 2022, Space UK went on to beat all of the levels on the main demon list, with impossibly low attempts. He was even set up to verify the future top 1 Banshee. This was until his empire would come crumbling down. In April of 2023, an unknown person approached Space UK claiming they knew his dark secret. He hacked everything. This surprising claim would eventually lead the head moderator of the demon list, Paco, launching an investigation. Paco and some of the other moderators on the demon list would go on a hunt to confirm these allegations. Eventually, Paco would release a 3-minute and 16-second video with all of the evidence they collected. After a frame-by-frame analysis of the video verifications, they found that many of Space UK's audible clicks were inconsistent with his gameplay. However, there wasn't enough sufficient evidence to claim he hacked everything, as only 2 of his videos were clearly hacked, with the rest seeming solid. Eventually, they got the final piece of the puzzle. He would place audible clicks over each of the clicks his macro made to make it look like he beat the level legit. This was the single most elaborate method to hack verifications in the game's history. This was found through a watermark that was found only through the creators of the macro, which can be found on Space UK's victory screen. This watermark made the victory screen slightly smaller compared to the default victory screen. This small fact went unnoticed for so long that many players assumed that a top player such as Space UK would never use a macro, so there wasn't much of a need to deeply check. Although Space UK deleted his YouTube channel, you can still find some of his old verifications on the Space UK Archive YouTube channel. But with the fall of Space UK, the demon list was in shambles. Slaughterhouse's verification had to be given to the first victor of the level, Doggy, since he was the first person to beat the level after Space UK. Furthermore, many of Space UK's first victor accomplishments had to be given to the original first victor. And the influence he had on the demon list directly influencing the placement of 2 levels had to be changed to match their true difficulty. This wasn't the full extent of the damage Space UK inflicted on the Geometry Dash community. During his prime, he went on to win the official Geometry Dash award for the best player at the 2021 and 2022 GD Awards by a massive margin, robbing the recognition from more legitimate players like Trick and Doggy. This was without a doubt the biggest scandal in Geometry Dash history. Although it is believed that Cyclic was more influential for hacking a majority of his completions, Space UK had a much bigger impact on the entire community, as the community was massively bigger than what it used to be, making it much more impactful. Slaughterhouse would hold the throne for a total of 226 days. Eventually, in its reign, it would fight for the crown with 2 other levels, Zakupin Circles and Abyss of Darkness. Both levels would immediately claim the throne from Slaughterhouse after they got raided, but would later be replaced due to the decision being rushed. Abyss of Darkness, however, would later be replaced afterwards as the hardest, and as of making this video, Abyss of Darkness lies 22nd and Slaughterhouse lies 28th on the demon list. Now, moving on to the second installation of Riot's trilogy, Acheron would eventually replace Slaughterhouse, taking the throne. Acheron was originally set to be verified by Wolves, but he would later drop it, leading to a race to verify the level. Remember Zoink, the player who is recognized from jumping from Bloodbath to Zodiac? Well, this player was not only the first victor to Slaughterhouse after Doggy, but he would be the one to verify Acheron. This would be the beginning of the true best player of Geometry Dash history, replacing the skill gap that Space UK left within the community. It would only take the young Zoink around 72,808 attempts to beat the level, an impressive feat for a verification. He was able to get such a low attempt count by using alternative methods of practice, such as no-clip, making his runs much longer than the average players. This means that while he still had an average amount of playtime for a level of such caliber, his attempts were much longer compared to other players. Regardless of how long it took him to beat the level, this achievement was so impressive that the level had a quick 5-day period before it was raided by RobTop. The gameplay in the level wasn't the best and it was heavily criticized, but the level received praise for its style and synchronization. Similar to Space UK, Zoink would quickly advance the difficulty ceiling of Geometry Dash. This could be also thanks to Space UK. Without a hacker such as him making moves so quickly, there wouldn't have been so great of a force pushing Zoink and other top players to catch up with him. A month after Acheron's verification, it would place second on the demon list. This would anger many people, resulting in it eventually moving over to the top 1 spot in a little over a week. Although this level wouldn't be as influential as Bloodbath or as controversial as Battle of the Shades, it would mark the beginning of the Zoink era, with his first verification. An era named after a player may seem a bit excessive, this player would influence modern day Geometry Dash as we know it, and would bring the game to new heights. After Acheron, Zoink would then go on to verify Avernus and Tidal Wave, 2 consecutive top 1. Zoink not only did this again with insanely low attempt counts, such as 27,732 and 49,534 respectively, but he made lasting top 1s, as the levels he would verify would stay top 1 for months. He wouldn't stop at this, as he would go on to verify half of the top 10 levels as of recording this video, and would be the first victor to every other level, with the exception of Bubuwamba and Prenumbral. He would make up for these 2 missed levels, as shortly after his verification of Orbit, another top 10 level, it would only take him a week to beat it, an insanely fast time to beat the hardest memory level in the game. He would also verify 11 of the top 25 levels. By the way, he would also have all of these verifications and completions with the exception of Bubuwamba before the age of 18. He was not just any good player, he was the best player in the history of the game. Eventually, the second best player in the game, W. Popoff, would end Zoink's streak of top 1 verification with his verification of Amethyst that would hold the title for an outstanding 107 days. Zoink, however, would continue with his reign with the verification of the previous top 1, Thinking Space 2. Surprisingly, at the time of recording this video, W. Popoff would verify the new level, Society. Although I have been saying Zoink is the current best player in the history of this game, other players like W. Popoff are close behind. If you look at the Demon List stats of both W. Popoff and Zoink, they are both extremely close in completions. Even though Zoink is undoubtedly the best player in the history of the game, many other players are extremely close, just showing how far this game has truly gone from its earlier days.
Don't go in there, you'll become one. Freaky creatures, monster party, eyes of yellow, scales and feathers, tails and tethers, turn the lights off.
Now that I've gone over the most influential verified top 1s in Geometry Dash's history, there are still many more top 1 levels that will eventually reign king over the Demon List. While there is an inevitable ceiling of human ability with this game, we still have many more top 1s to come before we reach that ceiling. There are still upcoming top 1 levels that are going to be verified soon, Bohemians, Heliopolis, and Greed. There are even some levels that may be verified years from now, like the last part of Riot's trilogy, Eternus, or other impossible levels like Lightmare. And that being said, this was the history of Geometry Dash's hardest levels.
Turn the lights off, don't